teacher and an advocate from Coney Island, Brooklyn. Following brief remarks from myself and 4 New York City teachers, several of us will be available for follow-up questions. Let's do it off to the right so the sun isn't killing us. Thank you. I'll ask that you please hold all questions until the end of the program. I am honored to be joined today by teachers from across New York City. Just around the corner, thousands of teachers are gathering in Foley Square to demand an end to education inequality in New York City. These teachers are here to send a message to Mayor de Blasio. Mr. Mayor, it is time to put an end to the tale of 2 school systems. Until the administration takes the bold action that our families need, our movement will continue to grow. We're going to rally, we are going to march, and we are going to organize our communities. We're going to make sure that every child in New York City has access to great public schools that they deserve. Now I am proud to introduce our first speaker of the day. She is a teacher from Achievement First Brownsville Elementary and a great role model for our children. Please welcome Ms. Monique Johnson.
Good afternoon. My name is Monique Johnson. I'm the music teacher at Achievement First Brownsville Elementary in Brooklyn. I have the best job in the world. Every day I get to help kids open their minds to the world of music. I get to guide them through everything from Beethoven to Beyonce. And I get to watch as music transforms their lives just like it did for me. My family moved here from Jamaica when I was 10. I was lucky. I got into public schools that supported and challenged me. As a kid, all I wanted to do was study music and the arts. My mom put me in dance classes, piano lessons, and vocal training. Music was everything to me. After high school, I attended Howard University, where of course I studied music. When I left Howard, I decided that I needed to do more than just make music. I needed to help more kids discover the world of music, to help them learn about, experience, and find happiness in music, just like I did. I feel blessed to have the chance to teach these kids from Brownsville. I get to work with lots of kids. Some of them have had very tough lives. But it's amazing to see the transformation that occurs when a child encounters the power of music. We all know that feeling when our favorite song comes on. Our feet begin to move and the music just takes over. Well, that happens in my classroom every day. In my classroom, for 40 minutes a day, kids engage with great works of art, explore new worlds of melody, and encounter lyrics that speak to their souls. Kids lose themselves in music and find themselves for the first time. They experience joy and happiness and come alive. My job gives me the chance to share my love of music and spread that joy and knowledge, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But sadly, many kids don't get the same experience. When I think about the fact that 478,000 kids in New York are forced into separate and unequal schools, it breaks my heart. These are kids with limitless potential. They're kids who could be the next Alicia Keys or Duke Ellington or even Jay-Z. But when we stick them in failing schools, we steal possibility away from them. That isn't right and it isn't fair. It's not worthy of us as a city. And as teachers, we have a responsibility to raise our voices and say, enough is enough. I became a teacher because I believe all children have a right to be valued. They have a right to an education that challenges them to explore their passions, find their calling, and pursue their dreams, whether that means law school or the Broadway stage. That's the New York City that I want to raise my children in. And until that vision is a reality, we're going to fight to make it real. Fellow teachers, I'm so proud to rally with you today. Today, you're making your voices heard. You're standing up to the status quo in education. You're demanding better for my students and your students and every student in this city. Together, I know we can change public education for good and create a sweet song of equality and opportunity for every student in every school. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you. So our next speaker is teaches science at Girls Prep Bronx. Please give a big hand to Miss Sierra Green.
Good afternoon. My name is Sierra Green. I teach science at Girls Prep Bronx. Before I jump in, I want everyone who teaches from the Bronx to get loud right now. Where are all my Bronx teachers at? I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn. A lot of people have this idea about what my neighborhood is. They think it's a dangerous place, a place plagued by poverty, crime, and despair. That may be true, but for me, it was also home. My parents and the rest of the Caribbean community in Brownsville were incredibly close. We didn't have much money. We didn't go to school with the best clothes, but my parents made sure I went to school clean with my clothes pressed. They made sure I took pride in who I was and where I came from. But public schools in Brownsville were failing then, just like they are now. My school was a disaster. The teachers looked like they had given up. I knew that unless I found a way out of that school, I could easily end up lost in that world, like so many kids from my neighborhood. Because of the support of my parents and a great science teacher, I made it out of that school and got to college. But I never forgot what it felt like to have your school abandon you. When I got to college, I was sitting next to kids who had taken AP classes their whole life. Their science classes had labs, not just textbooks. They didn't walk through metal detectors. They didn't have to worry about games. They were valued by their school. I couldn't understand why they had been given so much when I had been given so little. I couldn't understand why their schools had prepared them to succeed while mine had prepared me to fail. I was bitter. I was angry. It was so unfair. I deserved everything that those kids got from their public schools. But because I grew up in Brownsville instead of Park Slope, I was treated like a second-class citizen by the New York City public schools. I was angry for a long time, but I decided I needed to channel those feelings into something positive. So I became a teacher. I decided to devote my life to kids who came up like me. I teach science at Girls Prep Bronx because I want to show girls from the Bronx that they can grow up to be engineers and scientists of tomorrow. Not many schools in our neighborhood teach science 5 days a week. We do, and here's why. We want our students to do more than just go to college. We want them to graduate from college. We want them to go back to their communities and change them for the better. They're going to change the world, and I'm so excited to watch them do it. My teachers, my fellow teachers, thank you for standing up for kids who grew up like I did. Thank you for believing that each of them can achieve their dreams. As teachers, that's our job. But today we need to do a little more. We need to take a stand for every child in New York City. We need to make enough noise today that our city leaders will be forced to hear us. Mayor de Blasio, this means you. We will not stand any longer for separate and unequal New York schools. This rally is a start, but it is just the beginning. We need to meet our elected officials. We need to spread the word to colleagues, friends, and neighbors. We need to demand that our kids and every child across New York City get what they deserve from our public schools. Together, I know we can end New York's tale of two school systems. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Ms. Green. Our next speaker teaches science at Success Academy Harlem. Please welcome Mr. Sibo Wang.
Good afternoon. My name is Sibo Wang, and I teach science at Success Academy Harlem 1. My story begins thousands of miles away. My parents came from villages deep in rural China, and I was raised in Beijing. Their story is one of hard work and perseverance, but it's also a story of love. Tens of thousands of students from where they grew up took the college entrance exam, but they were just two of a handful of students who scored high enough to get accepted into college. Most of their friends ended up as farmers or migrant workers. That's what life was like for the children of peasants in China in the 1970s and 80s. Only good test scores and a bit of luck could put you on the path to a better life. After college, my parents immigrated to the United States. We settled in Galveston, Texas. Our first years there were tough. Money was tight. I went to a school that would later be closed because it was failing. As soon as they could, my parents moved us to the suburbs. Even though they weren't wealthy, they made it possible so we could access better schools to help me achieve my potential. I would go on to attend Columbia University. Columbia opened my eyes to many issues surrounding social injustice, and so much of that injustice, especially here in New York City, is rooted in our school system. Because when you think about it, schools in New York City aren't all that different from what my parents experienced in rural China. Poor kids here are consigned to failing schools, just like where my parents grew up. Here, just like there, a good education is the only real ticket to the middle class. But similarly, only a handful of students ever get that opportunity. Only a few lucky kids make it out to fulfill their dreams. And the cycles of poverty continue because too many kids are being shut out of great public schools. I became a teacher to help change those odds. I became a teacher because I believe teaching is one of the only ways to level the playing field for all students. Only then can we begin to address the crippling socioeconomic and racial divisions within our society. I know I can't fix education inequality on my own, but I still feel powerful. Together as teachers across the city, we are united in one goal: to give every child the education they deserve. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my school every day and improve my craft as a teacher. I'm going to spend my evenings, weekends, and every spare minute I have fighting to make sure my students receive every opportunity that I have. But I'm going to fight for more than just my students. I'm going to use my voice as an activist. I may just be one individual, but when we come together, we are a powerful force for change. That means we need to do more than spend long hours in the classroom. We need to organize our friends and neighbors. We need to lobby our elected officials. We need to hold our leaders accountable for the decisions they make that affect our children and our communities. Together, I know we can end inequality. Together, we can give every child a world-class education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wang. And our final speaker for today is someone from a school that's close and near and dear to my heart. Please welcome Chantel Zuniga from Coney Island Prep.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chantel Zuniga. I'm here from Coney Island Prep Elementary School in Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised in Sunset Park, but both of my parents immigrated here from Panama. They came to New York in search of a better life, a life where their children could grow up to do anything, to be anything, and to accomplish all of their dreams. I am here today because of my parents' sacrifices. My dad was an accountant, and my mom worked at a clothing factory. In the little spare time she had, I helped her study for her citizenship exam or practice her English. My mom may have not spoken English very well, but she was no fool. She took one look at our local zone schools and decided that she was not going to let me go there, because the schools in our zones were failing. In our zone elementary and middle schools, kids were not given the resources and the opportunities that other neighborhoods took for granted. At my zone high school, almost every student failed their state exams. One of my friends who went to that school had a teacher who told him that college was not an option and that he should instead get a job flipping burgers. His teacher ruled out a future for him way before he even graduated high school. My mom decided she needed to get something better for me. So she did the only thing she could. She made up an address for me that would get me into a better school. My mother, who had more integrity and pride than anyone I've ever met, was forced to lie to the New York City public schools just to get her daughter access to a decent education. My mom passed away when I was a senior in high school. She never got to see me walk across the graduation stage, but I'm proud and thankful that she saw me get accepted to Fordham University before she did. When I look at our schools today, it's crystal clear that nothing has changed. The best schools in the city are still set aside for kids with privilege. Neighborhoods like where I grew up are still stuck with failing schools. That's why I decided that I needed to work in education. I wanted to devote my life to making sure that other kids are given the same opportunities I had. As educators, it's our responsibility to fight for our kids, but it's also our responsibility to fight for those who aren't in our classrooms. Because unless we do, no one else will. I'm not going to stand by and let another generation of kids have their futures limited by failing schools. Because I know that if I don't stand up and speak out, another generation of my family, my friends, and my neighbors will be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zuniga. My friends, this brings us to the end of our program today. I hope you will all join us in Foley Square. Our rally will begin shortly. I want to thank all the teachers for coming out today, for taking a stand for equality. Every day you are committed to providing a great education to kids in the classroom. I'm honored to stand with you today to advocate for the 478,000 kids that are being denied an equitable education. Thank you all for coming, and let's go rally.